Hello everyone. Welcome to the second video of this week. We are studying chapter 4 heat, and in the previous video, that is the first video for this week, we have started transfer of heat or heat transfer. In the first video, we have already discussed the first method of heat transfer, that is conduction. We have seen that conduction takes place in solids. Now we are going to study about convection, which is the way of heat transfer in fluids. So let us see what is convection. So convection is the transfer of heat by the mass movement of a fluid away from the heat source. So what happens during convection? Warm air is less dense than cool air, meaning it wants to float on the cool air. So what happens in convection is that the fluid that will be closer to the heat source will absorb heat energy, and the fluid will become less dense as it has absorbed heat energy, so it will become less dense, and since it has become less dense, it will rise. Now what about the cooler fluid? This cool fluid is more dense. Since it is more dense, it will sink down, and this movement of the fluid away from the heat source is only known as convection. Now let us understand more about convection. So convection occurs when a cooler, denser mass of gas or liquid replaces a warmer, less dense mass of gas or liquid by pushing it upward. When water is boiled, for example, the water moves in roughly circular patterns because of convection. This motion is of course due to the density differences that result from temperature differences. So energy is transferred by the movement of matter, that is liquid or gas, during the process of convection. Now let us understand this with the help of this diagram or this picture. So here what happens, you can see these are the molecules of a fluid. Now when heat will be applied, the molecules will absorb heat energy and they will start vibrating or moving. So since the molecules are away from each other, so they have lots of space to move more away from each other. So what will happen eventually? Finally, what will happen? Due to the movement of the molecules away from each other, the fluid will become less dense, and as a result, the fluid will start rising up. Now, what will happen to the denser fluid? So, the denser fluid which is away from the heat source will sink down, and this movement of the denser and the less denser fluid will cause a current in the utensil or whatever the fluid is present, and this is only known as convection current, and the process is known as convection. So let us understand this with the help of this diagram. So what will happen if this is the heat source? This is the source of heat. Heat is being applied from here. So the water that is present closer to the heat source will become heated first, and as it will become hot, it will become less dense and it will start rising up. Now the fluid that is present here will now sink down as it is more dense, and similar pattern will be followed by the fluids that is present here. So this will create a convection current, and this movement of the water molecules is only known as convection. So now let us see some of the applications of the process of convection. So first example or first application of convection is in electric kettle, where the heating element is placed at the bottom. Why at the bottom? So that the water that is present at the bottom will become hot, rise up, and the denser liquid will again sink to the bottom, making the water that is inside the kettle completely hot. Second application is of refrigerator. You must have noticed that in refrigerator that the freezer is always placed at the top. Why? So that the cold air at the top will sink down and the warmer air will move up, making the refrigerator cool. Now also you must have noticed some of the basic concepts. First of all, room heaters are always placed on the floor. Second thing, ACs are always installed close to the ceiling. Third thing, the windows are always installed in between, of course, neither too up nor too down. Ventilators are always placed at the top. Exhaust fans always at the top. So what is the reason behind all this? The reason is convection. If you try to understand yourself, you will be able to understand. What is the role of the window? The role of the window is to bring in fresh air, and fresh air, that is cold air, is heavier. It will not be located at the top. Ventilators are always placed at the top so that the warm, stale air from the room or from the house can be expelled out, because the warm air will always be close to the ceiling. It will be warm, so it will be less dense and it will be floating up, so it will make the warm air move out. About the heaters, why heaters are placed on the floor? Because it helps in cooling the room, again by the same process, that is by convection. And ACs, they need to cool the room, so they are placed at the top, because most of the warm air in a room will be located close to the ceiling. So this is how convection is helping us. Now convection can also be seen in the nature. Sea breeze and land breeze are very good examples of convection. So what happens in these two different types of breezes, sea breeze and land breeze? So first of all, in sea breeze, what happens? We all know that land absorbs heat faster, whereas it also loses heat at faster rate. So land will be hotter at daytime and cooler at night. So we have to keep this concept in mind. First of all, it will absorb heat at a very fast rate and it will also lose heat at very fast rate. So it will be warmer during daytime and colder at night. On the contrary, what will happen to the sea water? Sea water will be cold during the daytime, whereas it will be warmer at night. So now let us understand sea breeze and land breeze. So first of all, let us talk of the sea breeze. So as I have told you, during the daytime, the land will be warmer as compared to the sea water. So what will happen? The air above the land will also be hot as compared to the air above the sea, which will be cold. Now what will happen? Since this air above the land is hot, so it will be less dense. Now since it is less dense, it will start rising up, creating a vacant space here. Okay, now what will happen? To fill up this space, the cold air that is present over the sea will start moving towards the land. And this cold air that is moving from the sea towards the land is only known as sea breeze. The opposite will happen at night. Now at night, as I have told you, land is cooler, whereas the water is warm. So the air above the sea will also be warm, whereas the air above the land will be cool. Now the opposite will take place. So as the air above the sea is warmer, so it will start rising up. The air will start rising up, creating a space here. Now what will happen? To fill this space that has been created, the cool air from the land will start blowing towards the sea, and this cool air blowing from the land towards the sea is known as land breeze. So we have to keep this in mind. Sea breeze will always take place during the daytime, and it is the cold breeze that blows from the sea towards the land, whereas land breeze will always blow at night, and it is cold breeze that is flowing from the land towards the sea. So this is all about the sea breeze and land breeze, and also students, this is all about the convection. So students, we have seen two things. We have seen convection and we have seen conduction. In conduction, what happens? The molecules exchange energy by the process of vibration. The matter is not moving here. The molecules are exchanging the energy by vibration. Whereas in convection, what is happening? The whole matter, that is the whole fluid, is absorbing energy and moving from one place to another. Why convection cannot take place in solids? Because in solids, the molecules are placed too close to each other. So they don't have space to move away. So conduction cannot take place well in liquids or in fluids, as well as convection cannot take place in solids. So students, this is all for this video. I suppose you have understood. So I would like to say thank you so much to everyone. Thank you everyone.